Hi guys, and welcome to the Plymouth vs Sunderland match review. Now, I am sounding very downbeat because it was a very downbeat result where Plymouth got themselves a brilliant, for them anyway, a brilliant 2-0 victory. Now, going into this game, I was confident, but I was quietly sort of cautious as well, because the night before the game, I was listening to a sort of a live chat on Twitter or X, or however you want to call it now, and it was the Roker Report that were hosting it, and included within this live chat and sort of talk was a bloke from a Plymouth podcast, well-spoken guy, seemed all right. And one thing that he did repeatedly say was, you know, a lot of opposition fans, albeit when they've beat Plymouth, almost all of them have said that Plymouth are the best side that they've faced, even though they did, beat them. So I thought, right, okay, there's obviously something to this, A lot of teams have said that with us, so I was expecting a real fight and a real good performance from Plymouth, and they are a good footballing side, although I definitely wouldn't say that they are by far the best or the best team who've come up against this season. I would disagree with that, whether that's just the game they had yesterday. For the opening 20 minutes of the game, we did dominate. We controlled possession. They didn't look particularly threatening at all. We did go with an unchanged 11, other than the centre-back partnership where Tarantis and Sealts fell to the bench, and O'Nien and Ballard went back into the starting 11. Opening 20 minutes, as I say, controlled the game pretty well. We were getting little half chances here and there, nothing too clear-cut, but we were getting half chances. And then Whittaker comes up with a moment of magic. He cuts in from right to left, and he just slices across the ball and just pings into the far corner. Patterson has absolutely no chance. So in terms of quality in there, we knew they have it. We knew they had it anyway. Whittaker was one of the lads I was keeping my eye out for, and he was looking very threatening when he did get on the ball. But after such a dominant 15-20 minutes, as soon as they got that goal, the home crowd got right behind him. The atmosphere was rising, and we kind of took our foot off the pedal a little bit, and we allowed them into it, and it gave them that confidence that I didn't think they had before, because they allowed us so much of the ball, and they were getting at us, and eventually they did make it 2, which is another unstoppable strike, albeit, for Whittaker's goal and the second goal as well, we give them far too much time, but it's put right into the bottom corner. It's a lovely, lovely finish, and the game was almost dead and buried at that point. But in terms of individual performances, particularly in that first half, Ekwah, again, I don't think he was as bad as he was previously, but he's just no way near it. With Ekwah, his passing, again, was off. However, the one thing that did frustrate me with him is he is so unbelievably soft in the challenge. That's not to say Daniel next to him was, miles ahead, but he was a lot better than Ekwah. But he's so soft in the challenge, and his anticipation of where a ball's going to go, rather than making a decision like, right, okay, it looks like the ball's going to bounce here, he just won't go for it. If he's unsure, he just won't go for it, and he'll just let them run with it. He was miles away from Daniel at chunks in the game, leaving them just a huge empty gap in the centre, and he was just wandering anywhere. Like I say, there was so many times where it was a bit of a 50-50, and he's going up against a lad who's half his fucking size, you know what I mean? And he's thinking, oh no, I'll dip away from that and allow him to run past me. And that happened to go 3 or 4 times. And like I've said so many times on this channel, you might not be the most gifted footballer, but if I see you ducking out of challenges, particularly against someone who looks softer and half your size, then you can get off the pitch. Because I'm not having someone who's going to just dangle and think, no, I'm not going to go for it. He was an absolute pussy at times, Ekwah. I don't know whether it's something since his injury, but like I said, last time out, he was absolutely horrendous. But against Plymouth, he was probably 0.1% better. But in general, he's just not the lad that we are used to seeing. He usually is, he's radiating quality. He looks good on the ball generally and keeps hold of it nicely. But recently, it's just like I've said before, and Mowbray said it, it's like the lad needs a slap to wake him up, because he's just so slow on the ball to making decisions, and when he isn't entirely sure on what to do with a situation, he just won't do anything. And yet I'd rather him commit to one decision, be it a wrong one, rather than not commit to anything at all. And that's what he does time and time again. And up top, we're screaming this. It was almost identical to the Swansea game, where we had chance after chance after chance, and if our wingers aren't scoring goals, no one's scoring goals, because we've got 4 strikers at the club in Rusin, Burstow, Mayenda. Who else is there now? Oh, Hamir as well. and none of them have scored a goal. Rusyn, for the opening sort of 15, 20 minutes, he's making these runs in behind where we kept trying to ping him over the top, and I like that we have the outlet, or we did have the outlet temporarily, and then as soon as we conceded, we stopped doing that. That was completely out the window, and it was just get it over to Clark or get it over to Patrick Roberts. Roberts, who, I'm glad he's signed the contract, but he's had a poor start to the season. Very poor. He's threatening in terms of he's getting at them, but his end product has been horrendous. He had a couple of chances where it falls from that on the edge of the box and he scuffed it, he's gone straight to the keeper. It just typifies his season so far. Whenever Clark gets on it, they brilliantly, manned up on him with two men and he couldn't do anything with it. That's our main outlet, isn't it? If you stop Jack Clark, you stop Sunderland, and that was happening. But like I said, it was good to see that we did have the outlet of Rusyn getting in behind. He was making very intelligent runs and we were trying to get him in and we're just... a bit off it. There was one time I think we did slip him in behind, and rather than hitting it first time, he took one touch way wide, and then he's made a bit of a mess of it. But once we conceded, it was just kind of back to plan A, which is get the ball to Jack Clark and see what happens, and nothing was happening, unfortunately. When you're getting man-marked or getting doubled up on, sometimes tripled up on, as a winger, you can be as good as you want. You're not doing much up against three opposition defenders, do you know what I mean? So half-time, 2-0, and Rusyn comes off, as does Ekwa, which I think was the right decision. Mayenda comes on, as does Alshish, which is the exact substitution pairing that I wanted to see come on anyway. And it did change the game somewhat. Alshish looked infinitely better, coming on the pitch. We just, as a whole, as a group, Bellingham dropped back a little bit. Alshish pushed forward, as did, of course, Mayenda as a striker. And we looked like we had someone to stick to as well. There were a handful of times where if we didn't really have much on, we pinged it into Mayenda and it stuck to him, or he'd spin his man. Alshish was constantly trying to find something to happen. And we were just unfortunate in that second half. Because that second half, we thoroughly dominated and we made some great passing moves. We hit the post a couple of times. One for Bellingham, a lovely passing move. It was put back to Bellingham and he put it on the outside of the post. Another chance where it should have been put away. It hits the inside of the post all the way back across. And then Alshish hits it he hits the side netting. And then we just started throwing all kinds of players on. Sealt come on. Who I think he looked like he was put into a more of a central role when Bellingham come off. Roberts come off as well. Barr come on. We were just really throwing the kitchen sink at it. Bradley Dack come on. Who again, I don't really see the point in him, to be honest with you. When the handful of times I've said him, I can't give you one attribute where I think, oh yeah, that's what he does. I can't at the moment. I've seen clips of what he's done at Blackburn and other places. It looks half decent, little fox in the box. But whenever I've seen him with Sunderland, albeit not very often, I couldn't give you one attribute where I think, oh, okay, this is what he's going for. Do you know what I mean? But Mayenda, he was put in behind. He's one-on-one with the keeper, but he has such a heavy touch. I think he thought he had to take it wide, and he has taken it really wide and then made a mess of it, really. But Alshish were going for it a couple of times, some really good opportunities. It just wasn't on it. In that second half, we thoroughly dominated. I think Plymouth had one chance right at the beginning of the half where we made a bit of a mess of it at the back and were scrambling to get it away. But other than that, we utterly dominated, and it just shows, fair play to Plymouth. They were clinical. That's what it is. Again, I wouldn't say, like, apparently other, opposition fans have said about Plymouth saying they're one of the best teams or the best team we've played this season, because they're not. But they were clinical, and going forward, they absolutely have that in them. They really were clinical. With Whittaker, his strike was outstanding, and going forward, they looked really dangerous. So yeah, fair play to them. They weren't the best side we've faced, absolutely not, but they were very clinical, and we need to be like that. Like I say, if the wingers are having an off day and they're not scoring, we're not scoring at all. And again, I've said this a million times, because we've played so much of last season without a striker, it's like we just don't have a clue how to play with one now. So we may as well play with 10 men, because we're struggling to get a striker involved. Mayenda, out of the bunch we've seen so far, I think he looks the most threatening, or he offers more than anyone else. In pre-season when we saw Hamir, he looked really good. When we needed a target man and put the ball in the air, he wins it. So we do have that. With Burstow, it just wasn't happening for him. We struggle to play with a striker. I think we might have to go with two up top at some point to really try and penetrate our back line, because the only option we have is Roberts on one side, Clark on the other, cutting him from left to right or going to the byline. And on the day, you can't stop him. But when they are getting doubled up and dribbled up, and you can't do out, and I'm repeating myself here, but it's just so frustrating to see that. I think out of the last 3 away games, we've had, I think that stat was something like 67, 68 shots with no goals. I think the last 2 games we've had 49 shots with no goals. It just shows we are making chances, but we're just so poor in front of goal. We are so poor in front of goal. If we had a striker, an informed striker on our team, we would be in the top 2 with the amount of chances we create per game. But when you were that wasteful, and that shocking at the back at times. Of course, the 2 goals couldn't really help. But, you know, the likes of 09, I'm going to say this now, right? Because everyone thinks I'm just an 09 fanboy, love him, whatever. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as people make out. Some people have it in for 09, you know, he's got a bit of personality, and there's a lot of Sunderland fans, and the second anyone shows a bit of personality, they just shoot him down, regardless of whatever they do. 09, I think, for every sort of 2 or 3 really good games he has an absolute shocker, you know, and I think there's some fans that just like to stick to the shocker, and he will never, ever compliment them when he does give his 7 or 8 out of 10 performances, because he does largely do that. But I also, you know, I'm not blind and stupid enough to not realise that he is a bit of a liability at times. And what really pissed me off, I just want to throw this in there with 09, because I want to show, you know, I'm not completely against showing 09 a bit of criticism. You know, I'm all for a bit of shithousery, right? When we're 1 or 2 goals up and he's messing around or trying to wind up the opposition, I'm all for that. In fact, I enjoy that because it knocks them off the focus, it winds them up a little bit. They're not on their A game because they're getting wound up and because they're losing. That's fine. Do that all you like. But when we're 2-0 down against fucking Plymouth away from home, you've got all those fans who've travelled that long, it's like 13, 14 hour, 12 or whatever it is, journey all around to see him. I think there was like 10 minutes left, if that. And he's winding their players up, you know, throwing them about a bit off the ball, a bit of a cheeky slap, you know, trying to wind them up, and he's giggling at him, and it's like, what the fuck are you laughing about, man? We're 2-0 down. You're meant to be the captain. That's fucking pathetic, mate. It's not just pathetic, it's just downright stupid. You look a tit. An absolute tit. That's it, end of story. Do it all you want when we're winning, but what are you playing at there? Do you think we're going to, oh, great, mate, you know, we lost 2-0, but at least you give that lad a bit of a slap on the face? Not bad. Do you know what I mean? And you're supposed to be captain. That's pathetic. It's utterly pathetic. Don't accept that whatsoever. But either way, yeah, it's a poor result. I've seen a lot of people on social media calling for Tony Mowbray, and we can't have too many more of these. In fact, we can't have any more. For me, well, if we want to really challenge for the top 6, you know, we can't keep having these games where we are so thoroughly dominant and coming away with 0 points. We can't keep doing that because we've already dropped down to 9th. You know, it's such a tight league up at the top, and if we keep going like this, we could be fucked at some point. You know, I'd like to see us at least go for the top 6. I expect us to be in the top 6 from the end of the season, but we need someone to start picking up when Jack Clark isn't going to walk the ball into the back of the net for us, which I'm saying every single review now. Yeah, it's a frustrating one, guys. It is a frustrating one. But either way, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Please hit the like button for me. It'll put somewhat of a smile on my face because that game was just Swansea all over again, but arguably worse. But there we go. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe and all that shit. Take care. Stay jammy.